Thank you all for coming back. Thank you all for hopping on again to the Midwest Student Voting Summit. So I will now pass it off to Ella McCanna, a Michigan Democracy Fellow with Campus Vote Project, who will introduce our next speaker.
All right, thank you, Landon. Hi, as he just said, my name is Ella McCanna, and I'm a Campus Vote Project Democracy Fellow at Michigan State University. So I am very excited to have the opportunity to introduce to you our next keynote speaker. Our next keynote speaker has had a crucial role for more than a decade in protecting voters through his advocacy for ballot drop boxes, early voting, and protection for election workers. For the last 3 years, he has served as the Michigan State Director for All Voting is Local. So please welcome Michigan Deputy Secretary of State Agogo Adive.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you, and thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm grateful to be speaking with you all this afternoon. And for those of you who don't know me, I am the Deputy Secretary of State here in the state of Michigan. This is the end of my 3rd week on the job, so this is a great way to end, the very beginning of my tenure. But I just want to convey the good wishes from Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, and we are geared up and ready to fight for democracy, and we're glad to have you as partners. Voting is one of the most critical things that we can do as citizens to make our voices heard. Not just in providing the opportunity to choose who represents us, but also allowing all of us to hold our elected officials accountable if they do not live up to the standards that we all hold. But being truly politically engaged doesn't just mean casting a ballot or even just encouraging others to vote. It means that we all have to stay informed and involved beyond today's conference. And that means staying connected and developing relationships with people who care about voting, and even those who don't. Political activism has to take place in every year, not just election years. It means combating misinformation whenever you encounter it, and being committed to doing so with facts and understanding. Being someone that people can trust with facts. It means openly advocating for causes that matter to you among your peers and your elected officials. Your voice can make a difference. And we need your voices in the community as trusted messengers. And you also have to share these messages with your colleagues, classmates, families, and friends. But to be one of those trusted voices, as I said before, you have to be willing to do the work. You have to learn the facts so that you're clear in sharing them. You have to have a willingness, no matter how difficult, to call out misinformation and correct it when you see it. Because if you don't do so, that just helps the misinformation grow. A willingness to give your time and energy to be recognized as a resource on your campuses, because it's helping others understand their rights and how to exercise them. That helps us ensure that we have a truly robust democracy. When all voices are represented and everyone is at the table, the best decisions are truly made. And that's why the work that you're doing is so critical. That's what you're demonstrating by participating here today. Unfortunately, election information is still running far too rampant and far too widely in our state, but also across the country, online and in social media. And while there is a lot that we can do to combat it, we cannot do it alone. Right now, our nation needs ambitious, enthusiastic, and supporters of democracy, just like all of you who are joined us on this call today. I cannot overstate the importance of college students being involved, and young people in general being involved in the democratic process. As you attend today's informational sessions, I encourage you not just to listen, but to network and make new relationships founded on like-minded principles of democracy, fairness, and the desire to create increased access to voting for all. In my time in working in elections, I've learned so much, but I want to leave you today with something I've learned about democracy. Democracy is not a fixed position society can achieve. It's an experiment, an ongoing one, a daily one, and one that must be adjusted, nurtured, and carefully protected. For those who have a hand in delivering on the promise of true democratic governance, self-governance, in the face of growing challenges, we must stand up for the democratic principles of equality, inclusion, and unity. We must stand with those who strive to secure the rule of law. And of course, we must stand together. Thank you for your energy and commitment to civic engagement, to strengthening our democracy, and to spreading your passion for both your peers. And I know we said that there wouldn't be any questions, but I'm willing to take questions for a couple minutes if that's what you guys are open to.
Perfect. Yes.
Awesome. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I do. It's Anthony from Philadelphia. I wanted to know, how did you get your start with voter advocacy and the importance of the right to vote?
Great question. So I think the one thing that I would encourage all of you guys to do is volunteer and find a mentor. So when I was in law school, I had a mentor of mine who recruited me to do some voter protection work. And I loved it. So I started doing that back in 2010 and was just basically monitoring polling locations as a poll challenger, just making sure that people at the polling location I was assigned to could vote and have their voices heard, making sure that their ballots were cast. And so I did that at that very local level, that very precinct for 3 cycles in 2010, 2012, and 2014. And then I was empowered by those around me, also advocating for myself to rise up and work in a boiler room, monitoring all those folks who were in polling locations. And then my friend happened to be running for Congress and she needed help with her voter protection work. So I became her voter protection director for the last 2 months of the campaign. Then at my last job, I came across the posting to be Michigan State Director for All Voting is Local. And I realized my election background plus my legal degree and having worked also as an attorney for Wayne County in a corporation counsel's office locally, all of those things without any planning kind of helped me be qualified for that job. I took that on and I did it for 3 years and I see some familiar faces, Landon, hello. And I did that for 3 years and we had a meeting with the secretary with a bunch of advocates and I was prepared for that meeting. And he kind of knew me from before, but I think in that meeting really saw me as an effective advocate and decided that I should be Deputy Secretary of State. So be prepared, volunteer, be engaged, and always bring your best. That would be my 2 cents. I think I have time for one more question.
Yes, and there was one question in the chat, so we'll wrap up with this question. Elizabeth Cooley asked, can you talk about the new challenges to voter ID requirements and how those may be addressed, especially with college-age voters? And they're from Ohio, which just had new voter ID passed. So,
yeah, we're very fortunate in the state of Michigan to, I think, have the best photo ID law in the country. Our laws in Michigan is that if you have an ID on your person, either a driver's license or state ID, or even a student ID at a state from a state university, you have to show it. But if you don't have it, you get to sign an affidavit attesting to who you are. And I think that's a real good balance between security concerns, but also making sure that people have access. Now, in Ohio, there obviously are some challenges because you have different laws. But what I would encourage you to do is stay engaged. Talk to your legislators. Form groups where, making sure that people have IDs. There should be funding for that. And I know that Vote Writers, I don't know if they're in Ohio, but that is a group that I would get in touch with if I was you, to make sure that your peers and people around your community have photo ID so that they can vote. Hopefully in the future, maybe the laws will change in Ohio and you'll be off and running. So thanks so much. It's lovely to be with all of you, and I will talk to you all soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michigan Deputy Secretary of State. We will now move on to the second round of breakout rooms for the next 40 minutes. We will have 3 different rooms. The first one, the room 1, will be engaging athletics with voting with Stephanie King from the All-in-Campus Democracy Challenge. Round 2 will be, the second room will be the power of art in voting with the Center for Artistic Activism. Round 3 will be connecting with residential life, which will be moderated by myself, and will be a discussion about how to make sure that on-campus students living on campus can make sure that they have the information they need to vote. All sessions will be recorded and available after the summit, and you can start selecting those rooms at the bottom of your screen. And again, if you need help to get into one of the rooms, you can put what room you'd like to be in chat if you aren't able to self-select, and we'll make sure you get in the correct room.